Good evening, guys, and welcome to another episode of the We Know Nothing show. Can you believe it? We're at a staggering 13 episodes now. Who'd have funked it all them episodes ago that we've lasted this long between each other? Tonight, not many words can describe this bloke that's coming on tonight, especially for me and Younger. We owe a lot of our who we are today, so to speak, and our footballing ability and how far we got in football. We owe it all to the main man, Jami Island. Thanks for taking the time to come on, Jamie. I appreciate you coming on. So like I say, guys, the special guest is Jamie, and you'll hear some stories from him. And me and Youngie owe a lot to him football wise. Youngie, as always, son, can't do it without you. Welcome to the We Know Nothing show, pal. Thanks for coming on.
Mate.
So like I say, guys, I know this is the most boringest part of it. I say it every time. Any feedback is welcome. You're more than welcome to come on the show. We've got the email, the YouTube channel, Twitter, Instagram, job lot. But if you are going to critique us, make sure it's constructive and no bad vibes, please. So enjoy the show, guys. Youngie, kick us off, son.
Yeah, so again, thanks for joining us again. It's always fun. And tonight we've got Jami Island, who, like Mark said, to us is, to a lot of people, to a lot of fans in football, you'll be classed as a legend. Some people will have had the say, good, the bad, and the ugly at times. But I'm going to start by just running through a couple. Let's just run clubs that you played. I think it was over 400 career appearances in the professional game, which is a staggering feat in itself. But Manchester City, Bury, Sheffield Utd, Burnley, Scarborough. And a couple of other clubs in between there, the odd loan here and there, I think. So quite a staggering playing career. Old Premier League as well, I believe, with Sheffield United. So
which was a nice time. Yeah, it was. Yeah,
a good time. So before we go into that, you when you were at Burnley, I think there was a chance that you might have had a crossover with or just missed out in playing with John Pender, which is quite poignant at the minute. Obviously, we've just had the sad news of his diagnosis with MND. But I know obviously you know him and you know a little bit more about him, and you obviously work with Steve Davis, who's obviously quite close to him as well. So I'll open the floor to you to say.
Yeah, John. I did miss him. I did miss him when I were at Burnley, but obviously playing against John. I don't know if he played in the FA Cup tie or was around it when I were at Sheffield United. But everybody knew John Pender in football because of how he was. He was a man mounted. If John Pender hit you, I don't mean with his fist, but if he hit you a tackle, you knew he'd hit you. And another devastating news. What came out last weekend? I think it was Roger Eli, Chris Pearson, Johnny Francis had done a thing in Burnley last weekend, and that's when it got announced about John. And it's just, it was like when Lenny John Rose. Yeah. The same thing came out about Lenny. Obviously, I've done a lot of stuff and with Gary Parkinson and stuff like that, and it can happen to anybody. That's the thing, and it's a horrible thing. But everybody thinks of footballers, you're invincible. Yeah. You feel you do that, and it's never going to happen to that. And unfortunately, it is. And Big Pens, me and Steve talked about it this week, and you can't do anything. You can't say, "Oh, he's going to be all right. Don't worry, he'll fight. He's going to be," because we know that doesn't happen. But all at the moment they're selling calendars, and giving bits to the charity, and I'm sure there'll be Burnley fans in the thousands, helping it in that sense. But I think all the Burnley fans, like they do, like the big family they are, just messages and just support can help the family, can help everything really. When when sometimes I suppose in that situation it can be a lonely place for the family, because they're doing all the stuff. But so I think, you know, just messages and stuff to help them through it. But like I say, tragic news, and such a big, strong, great character as a man as well. And hopefully, like I say, hopefully the family get all the support they deserve as well.
Yeah, there is a Just Giving page to help with John's family, and you know, just to help him get some of the care that he needs in it, you know, at this moment in time. So I intend on trying to add that Just Giving page to the link, so that we can get it spread as well far and wide, so that you know, we can get some, you know, like you said, the Burnley family is been a Burnley. Once you're a Burnley player, you're a Burnley player forever.
It is that, you know, as well.
So,
I must admit,
So yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll add that link to it as well, and we'll get it shared on our page. So yeah, you know, it's a bit of a tough one, but you know, we're here to talk about Jami Island. So let's start with your dad. Really, he was a bit of a Sheffield legend himself. You obviously followed in his footsteps later on, playing for Sheffield. What before you went on to join Manchester City, what was your upbringing like?
Right. Yeah, my upbringing was obviously my dad had played for 14 years, finished in 1961. We're on £8 a week, so we weren't going to he weren't going to retire all like that. So he had a nice newsagents in a place called Greenhill in Sheffield, which were a lovely place. I went to school with all my mates, and it was brilliant. And then at 11-year-old, he went, right, get in a pub. So I said, all right. So he got a pub, which were like, when we got it, oh my gosh, it were a proper old like, you know, for drinkers and everything. Quarter of a mile from Sheffield United's ground, and just surrounded by factories. So suddenly all my mates were an hour away on bus, my school was and everything, and now we're living quarter of a mile from Sheffield United's ground, 10 minutes walk into Sheffield city centre, where all I'd got is walls, which, when I look back on it, weren't a bad thing, because that wall, get a ball, find a wall, and that's what I did all the time. And all the regulars used to come out and play football with me, all blokes. And we had some great regulars in there. We had some lads who used to come in every night who couldn't afford drinks, who my dad gave them on a tab. And then one night they came in. This is when probably I was 12, 13 years old. And they went, we can settle up with you tonight, Tommy. We'll be able to pay because we're off to America on Saturday. And my dad went, what, on holiday? He went, no, we've got a recording contract. And it were Def Leppard. And they used to come in every night. Joe Elliott, Rick Savage, and the gang used to come in. They used to practice across road. And then they come in my mum and dad's pub. And obviously, I've got the first ever record, one of the first ever records. It's at my brother's house in Sheffield, what they cut and give me. Not that, but Joe Elliott is a massive blade. So when I would come back to play for Sheffield United, like me and Joe like hit it off straight away, sort of thing. So, but then he was an international rock star.
Yeah.
And now we're a two bob midfield player for Sheffield United. But yeah,
we not the other way around.
Well, I wish. No, not playing Premier League then. But it was a brilliant time. It was a brilliant time. I used to be ball boy at Sheffield United. I could see the floodlights from my bedroom when they played at night. But I was never going to sign for Sheffield United because I was always going to be classed as son of Tommy. You're not as good as your dad. You're not this.
Yeah.
And we took that decision as a family, actually. My late brother Andrew, my other brother Graham, and my dad, we all sat down and said, right, where's the best place to go? And I'd been to quite a few clubs. I was going to sign for Chelsea, but unfortunately they had the bomb in Hyde Park, what blew all the horses up. And my mum said, "You're not going down there." And Man City actually was absolutely fantastic to go. It was just an unbelievable place. It was like going to Disneyland as a place. It was just main road, Platt Lane, Cheadle, everything. I mean, like now it's Disneyland times 100, but then it was just a magical place to go. And I signed there. But before I signed there, and I don't know if I used to tell you lads, my dad said to me, if you don't get 5 O levels, you're not going anywhere. You're staying on at school. And he meant it, because he'd been a footballer and he knew the pitfalls that if you didn't become a footballer, which lots and lots of kids don't, you've got to have some education. My eldest brother finished up going to Loughborough University and blah, blah, blah. And so I had to get my 5 O levels, which I did. And so that was it. It started my football career off, but I had to do my education first. And it's a thing I always used, because obviously I went into youth coaching at Preston, and I used to say that to them on open evenings with all the parents, like, all these kids wanted to be footballers, but education was a massive thing, because not everybody becomes a footballer.
No, you're right. It is a big part, and I think it should be pushed a bit more in school. Like, yes, sport is fantastic, and sport has now become a massive forefront, and you've got to do more and more sport and keeping yourself fit and things like that, and healthy in school, and because child obesity obviously has skyrocketed in the last few years. But again, people that outside of that child obesity, people that play sport, solely get set on, I'm going to be this sports person, I'm going to be the next whoever, and actually your chances of doing that are so slim. And so you've got to be very, especially in today's day and age, how many people now make it, it's
I mean, to be honest, like even in my thing, my take on Man City, there was me, another, I think 8 of us who went in as first year apprentices, and 2 of us, I finished up playing 500 and odd games all total, and the other lad finished up playing 850, Paul Simpson, who was still best mates now. We went in digs together on a Sunday night. He was 15 still, I was 16, and we're still best mates now. But he did that, and the rest, it's funny though, the rest I see on Facebook and you see doing stuff, but we're footballers. That's what it was back in 1982, and it's not changed much now at all.
No.
But it's got, like you say, it's got harder now. But people see the bigger goal now of all money and blah blah blah, and it's not. It don't work like that.
I think it's still very much the same in. You've still got to think about what you're going to do when you finish football. You've got to do that. I know you get, lots and lots of money now, but you only get that when you're at the elite
you
level. So I think you've got to concentrate on what you do outside of football and after football. And you've obviously done that because you wanted to be a coach at your end of your career, and obviously now a scout. But I think people don't think about that as much especially when you're 16, 17, and you've got a club, especially like a club like Manchester City.
I knew in my 20s I wanted to be a coach, because I played like a coach, because I weren't quick, so I had to coach people around me to do jobs for me and organise and do stuff. And it was, I was a captain at 17 at Man City's reserves at 17-year-old, and I was always mature. I think growing up in a pub at 11-year-old, I was pulling pints at 11-year-old. We're locals who worked in factories and did all like that. But I saw a mature person in that sense. So I always knew what I was going to do, what I wanted to do. I didn't think, oh God, what's going to happen next? They were like, right, I know I want to coach when I finish football. And that was 10 years before I finished football.
And it's a good point what you make, Jamie, about it, to be honest, because we were lucky enough to have Graham Branch on the show a few episodes back. And we all agreed that I think sometimes the pressure actually doesn't come from within the child or the footballer. No. The pressure comes from the parents. Because we were, like Branchy agreed with me and Youngie when we were saying, like, half of the battle is that you get if you're a parent, sometimes you get a whiff of that. Your son's not a bad footballer for such a young age and stuff, and all of a sudden, cogs start going in parents' minds, thinking, "Oh well, 5 years on, he could be the next Wayne Rooney, he could be the next." You know what I mean? And that's and Branchy said that because he's got his coaching company and stuff, and he's and he said the pressure what comes from the parents sometimes is. Yeah.
I mean, I was lucky in that because my dad had been a footballer, and he came to watch me when I was at a professional club all the time. He never watched me Sunday league because they're all parents on side. He used to watch me for my town team, Sheffield Boys. I mean, he was the biggest critic ever. Even when I played professionally, I remember once coming home, we'd lost to Tottenham, and I played against Gaza, and Gaza had before he were injured, I mean, unbelievable. He'd run rings around me. He could have run rings around anybody, and my dad went, "You've got to get closer, you know. You can't let him do that." I went, Gascoigne, he's one of the best players in the world. He went, No, you've got to be close. No. So my dad were critical. It were never, like I say, but unfortunately now, I know I live Rottenstall. I live over here, and I talk to a lot of Burnley fans and blah, blah, blah. And they tell me about the friends' kids at 6-year-old are like going to clubs, and they're not letting them go to the friends' houses on an evening or go to a McDonald's party or something because they've got to think about the future. And I'm like, whoa, hang on a minute.
6-year-old.
You've got to be.
You're missing childhoods, then. Yeah, you're missing childhoods, and there's a lot what can go on. Look, I've got a son, and luckily, my son's very, very. I'm not just saying it. Clever lad, really clever lad, and I was so glad that he never went down the route of football because he loves football. He loves it. He plays. He lives down in London now, and he plays Sundays. And he helps run team manager. But I never had that where I'm thinking, oh God, what's he gonna? I hope he gets his contract. I hope he does that. Never at all. Yeah. He was lucky because he was good at everything, if you know what I mean. But never a master of football. He could put his hand to everything rather than just like, I'm going to be a footballer. No, he wanted. He was going to be something else, and I know it sounds a bit daft because I'm sure he would have loved to have been a footballer, but he didn't. And as it is, he's got a great life now, to be fair. But I would have never put pressure on him. And I see it sometimes, and it actually makes me cringe. I want to say something, but it's not none of my business, to be honest.
No, yeah, absolutely.
So from obviously Man City, you went on to Bury. How did that come about? How did you? Because obviously,
well, I'd made my debut at 17, scored on my debut, played only 3 matches, and I got a horrendous injury. I got my knee, my lateral ligament split in half. It wasn't telly, actually, a Sunday afternoon match. I'm riding about top floor, and my mum went, I'm there, and knees, and she went, because it were on a Sunday after game Saturday, she went, your hair looks nice, though. My hair looks nice. I'm riding about. So when I was 20, I went in, and I went to see Billy McNeil, who was manager, and I'd signed my first pro contract, £75 a week. And I'd thought, right, I'd gone up to 85. So my next thing now was like, right, I'm going to ask for £100 a week. So I went in his office, and I went, and he went, just sit down, I'm releasing you. And I was like, wow. And he could have knocked me down with a feather. And I went, right. And he said, no, I'm signing such and such, such and such, such and such. They're part of my plans, you're not. I know you've been here since you were 16, but thank you very much. That was it. So I came out, obviously devastated, and you think, what are you going to do? And then I got a few phone calls from clubs, and then I got this phone call from Bury, from Martin Dobson.
Okay.
Which in the end was the best phone call I've ever had in my life, because he was the man. He was the man who rescued me, Dobbo. Mm. And I remember him saying, I'd like you to come over for talks tomorrow to Gig Lane. And what do you think? I went, yeah, brilliant. And I remember coming off the phone and saying to Paul Simpson, where's Bury? Because at the time, we lived in Didsbury on Kingsway, South Manchester. We'd been in digs together. And then at weekends, I'd go back home to Sheffield, taking women, and then we'd come back. And if we went to play at Bury or went to play at Burnley, we went on a coach, dropped us at player's entrance, got off and played. So I said, where's Bury? So anyhow, obviously there were no sat navs or like that in cars then. It was still chokes to get it started. No mobile phones, and I eventually found the ground, went in, and Dobbo offered me, I think, £100 a week for the first year, £120 for the second year. Obviously, no signing on fee. I was 20-year-old. I was getting married the year after at 21, but I were on £100 a week and did it, and it was just the best thing ever. Best thing ever. Like, I signed, and there were Brian Flynn, Alan Taylor, Joey Jacob, Kevin Young, all from Burnley.
Only Burnley, yeah.
Then there were young players like David Lee, the flying winger, Andy Hill. We signed Liam Robinson from Huddersfield, Pete Butler from Huddersfield. And like added to that was Sammy McElroy, Noel Brotherston while they were there. Unbelievable. Terry Pashley.
Terry Pashley would have been there at
that time.
Yeah.
And you had these players. We were young kids wanting to play league games, and you got all these pros who absolutely were brilliant. And Dobbo, as a manager, just got the best out of young and old, and were just like sprinkled it with magic dust. And the football we played, the times we had were just absolutely brilliant. But I knew I was going to Bury because I wanted to get back to where I'd left from Man City.
Yeah,
and that was my aim. And it were kicking the old balls to get released. But it was one of those where I am like that. I'll prove you wrong. I'm going to come back. It took me 4 years, but I did.
Yeah.
Oh, but it was brilliant. Absolutely fantastic time. Worked like absolute pittance, money, everything, but that didn't matter because we were all a group of lads who it was just fantastic. Yeah, it was brilliant, Bury, I must admit. I actually cried when they went out of business, when it did.
Did you?
I cried that night. Yeah, I did, yeah. Because
obviously you played there 4 years. It's a club that's, close to your heart, and Manchester City gave you that opportunity to be a footballer. So another club that is obviously close to your heart, but you went and signed for Bury and stayed there for 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, Man City signed me and giving me a chance. Bury made me a footballer. I always say that. Martin Dobson made me a footballer.
So yeah, I can
similar to us, that, Jamie. Similar to me and Young at that. For you, that's what you did for us. You made us footballers.
Oh, that's a nice thing to say. Thank you.
Sheffield United next then. So boyhood club, grew up round the corner from there, and love the club, love the area. The passion for the area was there.
Yeah.
Let's find out how that came about then.
Well, obviously, I had 4 years. There was interest in me. I knew there was interest. Ipswich wanted to sign me well, the season before, Sam Ellis had took over as manager, and there was interest from Ipswich, and he took over, and I got a phone call from him. This was just before pre-season, and he said, "Come and see me." So I went down. I thought, they're selling me here. They're selling me. So he wrote billboards, 250,000 bid for Hoyland, Ipswich, which in 1989 weren't a bag money. So went in. He went, I've had John Duncan, who was Ipswich manager, on the phone. He's offered 250,000 for you. I went, all right. He went, I've told him to F off. I'll see you next week at start pre-season. And I went, hey? And he went, yeah, see you next week. Ta-da. And that was it. And that was that one gone. So I played a season. I played for him for a season. We did really well. But then I were out of contract, and it weren't like a Bosman then. It went to a tribunal. I had no agent, nothing like that. And what you did, I wrote personal letters to every club in League One and League Two, which is the Championship and Premier League now. And I wrote to Alex Ferguson. I wrote to them all. To be fair, Alex Ferguson wrote back saying, yeah, senior, loads of times. They used to come to Gig Lane quite a lot. Not what we're going to sign now, but I'm sure you'll get a career and all, like higher up. And I was like, great stuff. Loads of letters back, and then I got a phone call from Wolves, and Wolves rung me and said, right, we'd like to meet you. We want talks with you. So I said, yeah, no problem. So I met him at Great Bar Services just off M6 and went in, and I sat there, and he said, right, what are you looking for? And by now I were on £200 a week. So I said, well, I don't know. And that's what I were honest as anything. No agent. I went, I don't know. So he went, well, what about this then? And he peeled a bar mat and wrote some figures and passed them to me. And this is why I know I can never play cards, because he passed me these figures and I went, wow, bloody hell, eh? And he'd offered me 600, I think 700, 800, and I think 15 grand a year signing on fee. So suddenly I'd gone from like 10 grand a year to my first year, what we're going to be on there, 45,000, like, so wow, a lot of money. So I'm like, right. He said, well, what do you think about that? I said, yeah, it sounds great. Obviously I need to speak to my wife and blah, blah, blah. And I'm going on holiday tomorrow. Yeah, I was going on holiday tomorrow. And I said, can I speak to, I've just got to ring Sam Ellis as well to make sure, yeah, no problem. So I went to bar, put me 10 pence in, phone, no mobiles, rung Sam Ellis, and he said, might have a bit something for you. And I said, what's that? He went, Dave Bassett at Sheffield United wants to see you. And I went, right, no problem. So I went back to the table. I said, thank you, Graham. He was a bloke called Graham Turner. Shook his hand, and Ron Duke, the chief scout, said, thanks very much for the offer. I'm going to talk it over with my wife, blah, 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 and I'll be back in touch. And he went, right, great stuff. Drove straight to Sheffield. We're going into the car park, straight in. Dave Bassett's waiting for me. He said, right, I want to sign you. What are you looking for? So I thought, right, I'll put another £100 on each like things, and then I thought I'll put another grand on signing on fee. And I fooled to myself, because within 5 minutes he'd gone out of the room, come back and went, yeah, we'll do that, no problem. And I'd agreed it in 5 minutes. And Wolves rang me for the next, because I had to go to tribunal then to decide how much they're going to pay and whatever. Wolves rang me for the next probably 4 weeks. I went on holiday the day after, and they just kept ringing and offering me more and more money, more and more. And
but you were never going to go there, were you?
No, I was never going to go. Once I'd done that, and I just said, I'm sorry, it's what I wanted to play. They're in the top division now, and I'm going to fulfill my dream. And I went and played.
I think, like, I mean, from your longer, how old are you when you signed for Sheffield United, Jamie? Because I think
24.
24. So 24-year-old. So you were 24. You've had probably your fair share of ups and downs. Obviously, with City letting you go, and going to Bury, and being sort of a big player at Bury. You know, let's not do yourself an injustice there. You were a very good footballer at Bury, which attracted a lot of interest from a lot of clubs. And I suppose, I think when you look at it from that 24-year-old, Wolves have just offered you, in your eyes, an astronomical amount of money. Yeah. All of a sudden, your childhood club come in for you, and you're thinking, right, I've hit the big time now. That, to me, probably would feel like at 24, looking at it from the outside of it, it can't get any better for you. You're on astronomical money, childhood club. You're going to play in the top division, play with some very good footballers. As a footballer, you're probably thinking, how can it get better than this?
Yeah, but then the massive problem came, because I did a podcast with some Sheffield United fans in lockdown, and not that many people know this. I had that on my shoulder. I one on my shoulder, doubting, saying you're not good enough to go here. You shouldn't be going to play for these. And I was like that for about 6 months. Like, I'm not good enough. I shouldn't be anywhere near this. Yeah. Even though I were all right, but it absolutely destroyed me. Like, they're good about mental health and anxiety. I was like, oh my gosh, wow, I'm not good enough to play in top league against Liverpool and Man U. And even though that's all I wanted to do, I had that. I would never want to have like a big ego and I could strut. No, not at all. Everything were like, I'm sure about this. Can I do this? Can I do that? And it took me a long time to feel that I could do it.
And that's for me, that's a really good point that you made there, Jamie, because I think you could have gone in there with that cocksure attitude of, well, Dave Bassett wanted me. they've chased me, they've done this, they've done all the legwork and stuff, offered me this money and stuff, and done the deal. And I think that just that anxiety you're talking about and stuff, and I think back then in I think 1989, what you were saying, and I think back then I don't think it was the forefront of stuff, but it's amazing to know that that you're coming out now and saying for 6 months you battled with your own little demons, thinking that you weren't good enough and stuff, and I suppose back then the mental health stigma to what it was back then, I don't think
I mean, listen, the mental health thing, it's not a mental. I mean, mental health illness is a terrible. That's just a what's the word I'm looking at? Probably a confidence thing and thinking that.
Yes.
I'm not one of the. I might come across as a character like nothing bothers me and nothing. But actually, in the back of my mind, I've always got that little bit. I think probably getting released at Man City put those little things in.
Yeah.
Because you've always been at top of it, and suddenly you get a knock, and you're thinking, I don't want another one of them. I've got to be. And should I have gone to Championship rather than coming to Premier League? Should I have done that? And as it was, in end, it's once again strong-minded. Get it done. I'll get through this. I am going to do it. And in end, it turned out best thing ever, even though we were fighting relegation every year. It was like hard work. I played for my boyhood team against all the top teams again. So, I mean, it's 30 years to the day today. It's all over Twitter that we beat Sheffield Wednesday in first derby between the two teams for 21 years in top league. And I played in that, and that Sunday is one of the best days of my life. And nights, by the way, but that's another.
That's what it's about, though, isn't it? That I think if you talk to Burnley players playing Blackburn, that's that same, a similar stigma. Obviously, Sheffield is it's a one city, two club. The rivalry is a little bit more, but I think playing for your boyhood club as well is. Is amazing. I've got Bristol City written down on loan for a few games there.
I went there. I fell out with Bassett back end of the last season, and I just needed to get away, and I went to Bristol City for a month. And it was okay. I mean, Russell Osborne was manager. In fact, I bumped into Rob Edwards, who was there as a player the other night at the Wales-Belgium game, and we were on about it. And and they just sold Andy Cole, actually. Andy Cole had just gone for $500,000. And it was like, wow. And then it was good, but I realised then loans aren't for me. I need to be going somewhere where I know I'm going to stay, and I can make foundations and think this is it. This is where I'm going to get on here, rather than this is just a stop off.
So then it's Burnley after that, which is arguably a big foundation, because now you live around that area and you've grown roots and everything in that area. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Jimmy Mullen who fetched you in at that point.
I mean that was the. I went to I was the PFA rep at Sheffield United. And we'd gone to York City beginning of the season. They always have a meeting with your manager goes with you, or your assistant manager, and they meet like referees and they talk about the new rules and blah, blah, blah. We were in this room, and Clive Middlemass was sat across from me. And honestly, it was the funniest thing in the world, because he's mouthing to me across room, "Do you want to come to Burnley?" They were like a Peter Kay sketch. I'm what? And you're like, "Come to Burnley." Honestly, I swear to God, and I'm like, what you say? And eventually, meeting finished, and I went, "Oh, what are you on about, Clive?" He went, "Do you want to come to Burnley?" I went, "Yeah, of course, I'd love to come to Burnley." I said, "Permanently?" He went, "Yeah. I'll get on with it." And it was, and it finished up as quick as that. I came initially with a loan to a signing it permanent, it was I'd come over on Friday to play Sunderland. Steve Davis had got suspended, Sunderland away at Old Roker Park, and they signed me to play in that. And I met all lads on coach, and off we went. But I'd played against Burnley the season before in the FA Cup, when we'd drawn 2-2 at Bramall Lane, and then we'd beat Burnley, I think 4-2 at Turf Moor. So I knew, but I knew about the place, and I remember Marlon were a friend of mine anyhow, and I remember 9,000 Burnley fans at Bramall Lane, and thinking, wow, that is some club, like, you know, they're down there, and they were still, obviously they hadn't played the Stockport game to get promotion, and I thought, wow, that is some club. Look at support there, and they've just lost. And when it was like, do you want to come to Burnley? I thought Blackpool wanted to sign me. Sam Allardyce wanted to sign me at Blackpool, and I was like, don't know about Black. I don't, no disrespect, but and then Burnley came in, and I thought, I want to sign somewhere which is as much Sheffield United as it is, but you know what I mean? Like a club with passion for fans. Obviously Sheffield's a city, but a working city. You know what I mean? Steel, all like that. People appreciated that. You come to Burnley, and like obviously military work, but like working people who all they wanted was lads to work hard, get on with it. They loved the football, passionate about the football. And so when I got the chance, it was like, yeah, brilliant, great stuff. And came over, I signed that one as quick as, and on we went,
So you have been obviously around the old training ground and you know, dingy, mouldy.
Well, everybody were until a few years ago, and you just got that playing golf way back from training, like kicking ball, what we call football golf, getting it over at the river. How many times Liam Robinson finished up in there getting his ball out and swimming down thing and all that sort of stuff. But that were Burnley. You just got on with it, turned up, you know, got it. But everybody just got on with it. No,
dark tunnel down to the changing rooms.
Dark tunnel, all that. Coming out, not a problem. It was just, you just took that as what it was, you know.
Yeah. It was Burnley, wasn't it? That's the
and that made it actually, you know, it made it a little bit that, you know, it had that little bit of grit to it, and you're thinking some teams had come up and walk down that dark tunnel and think on a midweek game and think, fancy this. And then you come out and like it's blowing a bit and it's a bit cold, and that was July.
I think it's probably, you know, the reason why we had a difficult season last year, Burnley. You know, not having them fans. Because, you know, we've all said it. The fans make any club, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, Burnley fans are. If you don't go to Burnley, you don't see someone wearing a Burnley shirt. Have you really gone into Burnley? Like everybody, if you're born in Burnley, you're a Burnley fan. There's no.
Well, that's another thing. I came over the hill, down Manchester Road, like to Burnley when I first signed, and that's the first thing what struck me. Like there were no United shirts, no Liverpool, no Arsenal who were doing well at the time, certainly no Blackburn shirts. It were all Burnley, and you thought, wow, this is quite unique, really. I mean, Sheffield United, Sheffield Wednesday, City, and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course.
You got a few United and Liverpool, of course you did. But in Burnley, you were, if you were born in, you're a Burnley fan.
Yeah,
and it still is. I think it still is.
Yeah, it definitely still is. I think you still get. I think a lot of people now have the second club, you know, or the first club. They like to say that they're United fan, a Liverpool fan, and then they'll still pull a Burnley shirt on at the weekend.
Yeah, of course.
I think that's.
Welcome back to the second part of the We Know Nothing show with special guest down below, Jami Island. Going well so far. We've not had any bad stories yet. I'm sure they're to come. But I think, Jamie, what you were talking about the town, how we are as football fans, and there's a close knit society when it comes to the football in this town, and I think the fact that we've been through the mill of it all, in the sense of, you know, nearly going out of, you know, footballing division, and then you look at us now, some people might laugh at this statement, but you know, we're an established Premier League team. We've been there now for 6 seasons, and you know, Sean's doing he's doing a great job with the resources. Obviously, that's gone up a little bit now, which is good. I think it's a great point what you made as well about the dinginess of it, and about the fact that you would know, you'd know as well, obviously, and you can touch on this a bit more, but you'd know if you were in a game where you'd sort of see the same attitude from your opposition as you were when you were up for the game and stuff like that when they come to Turf Moor. Because, like I said, it either went one or two ways. Some lads would turn up and they wouldn't fancy it, but you knew you were in a game if they were pumped up just as much as you were. What were they feeling inside the team who you played with, you know, at the time when there weren't a lot of money in the club and stuff? What, you know, was it sort of just you played for the manager and you played for the fans, or, you know, with it?
Yeah, you did really. I mean, obviously it hadn't really exploded anyhow in the top flight. You know, the top players got paid good money. You know, your Shearers, Ian Wright, Cantona, all them guys who went to Italy, and them sort of people. They got, you knew they got the money, but a lot of lads who were playing even in first division, second division, it was a good living. Which actually, if you looked after your money, you could have a nice holiday at the end of the season and a decent house. You could never retire. So it was like everybody mucked in. And if people didn't pull the weight, then they got told that, because end of the day, that win bonus on a Saturday and that appearance money to playing team was gold dust. You needed that. It was brilliant. You know, that were the little bits. Now, obviously, it's changed unbelievably, but the top players still will perform because they could be on £1 million a week. It don't matter. But I just think it's changed a little bit that, you know, there's some very mediocre players playing in Championship and whatever who are going to be multimillionaires who actually don't deserve to be. But that's how it's gone. And when I say in our day, you know, I played with people like Adrian Heath and Alan Harper and them sort of people who've done it and been absolute brilliant players at Everton. They didn't mess about. They played, and they told you, you know, if you weren't doing it for Burnley, and they still wanted the best and whatever. And that really went round everything, went round all the players, and you set your standards. And we you know, there were quite a few bad times at Burnley, and, you know, the protests and stuff like that, which were, you know, when I look back on that now, the 333 protest, which I didn't realise until I interviewed him for my Marvellous programme a few years ago, was done by Tony Livesey. He'd set that up. He'd done all that. The firework went off outside the ground, and then they all turned for, I don't know if it were 3 minutes, but I said to Livesey, I said, yeah, but that 3 minutes is best we played all season. We were brilliant. while you were all facing away.
You all missed it.
Yeah, you all missed it. Yeah, right.
So jokes on you.
Yeah, but it was just, and it still is. I mean, I'm like I say, I live round here. I've lived round here for 20 years now. I've been here, and I actually wrote something the other day on Facebook. Some Sheffield United fans came to Rawtenstall before they went to Blackburn for the game, and they'd all asked me where to go for a drink and blah, blah. And I bumped into them as they were leaving to go to Ewood, and I put some on Facebook. Great to see them in my adopted town, and I feel like that now that I'm, you know, to be fair, I've not lived in Sheffield since I was 16. Even when I played for them, I lived in Peak District. Sheffield's my city, of course it is. That's where you're from, and you always have that. My dad still lives there, and my brother. But you know, over here now, it's great because, you know, the Burnley fans everywhere. There's always somebody to chat to and talk about stuff, and I feel part around here, even though I've not really worked for Burnley as such. But it's still there. You know, I can, where I take my dogs out over top, I can see ground from it and stuff, and it's obviously it's changed a lot, and it's changing all the time since I was there. But it's still Burnley Football Club, and I always say that the football club is the heartbeat of the town.
I was just going to say that it is, isn't it? It is the heartbeat of that town.
If that wasn't there, what would people?
Dread to think.
Everybody does. You go on holiday and you say where you're from, like so Rotstone near Burnley. Oh, Burnley. Oh yeah. The football.
Yeah.
You know, which is a fantastic thing, actually. Fantastic thing.
But so Jimmy Mullins started this whole process off of where we're now. I think Stan gets a lot of credit for some of the stuff that he did. For the football club. But if you look back at it, you have to say that it was John Mullen that started that process off and started the turn of the football club and started getting us heading in the right direction. And I think it has been a slow process for Burnley getting in the Premier League and not necessarily rightfully where they belong, but it's the promised land, isn't it?
You are. The thing is, you belong where you are, and Burnley have done a brilliant and set a precedent for other clubs to get there. And Jimmy, like you say, started it off.
Jimmy set the foundations, didn't he?
And obviously, like every manager, you get sacked. Of course you do. That's what happens with managers. It's unfortunate part, and they all know that. And he came to the end of what it was. They went for Chris Waddle after that. Disaster. And then Stan picked that up, and it needed somebody like Stan after Chris Waddle to really grab it by its coat, by its scruff of its neck, really, and move it on. And Stan was the man, as it goes. Quite a like unbelievable character, and some players playing at time go, oh God, wow. But now they look back and go, God, we needed that, and also what he sprinkled on with some players he brought, like Ian Wright, and for that side who coming to end of the career, but they just did what Burnley needed. Gaza just coming for Gaza playing for Burnley.
Yeah.
But then the others who you don't get talked about, but Mitchell Thomas and people like that, who were fantastic players, and just being around them sort of players. You talk to Paul Weller and everything. Wells played with all these, and a good friend of mine, and they set the examples what players took on board then, which I think had gone out of the club a little bit, to gone a little bit easy-ozy. Stan brought it back in and got him, and unfortunately missed out on the goal. What he wanted to do is take him to Premier League, and then it took a little bit of like where they're going to go, what's going to happen. And to be fair, Sean came in, and I don't know if you remember, he came in back end of season, didn't he? About January, February time. And I went a few times, and the fans were not having it. It's like shocking football, whatever. And there were mumblings that if they didn't start the season very well, he could have been gone in 5 games. And as it was, it like you look at Kieran Trippier, them sort of players who he brought in, and it just clicked. And to be fair, some of the players who Eddie Howe signed but couldn't get to play for Burnley. I mean, obviously, when I mean get to play, the potential for Burnley, Sean got it out of them. Danny Ings and them sort of players were unbelievable. And you just needed a manager like Sean. Nice and simple. That's what you do. This is how we're going to play. Got the players to do it. And as you say, the rest is history. And fair play to them. They went up, had the bump, came back down, which some do never get. But he took them straight back up with that group of players and kept them there. Yeah. And that's, that's my big gripe with Sheffield United. They should have done that with Chris Wilder, but that's we're going back on thing here.
This is what it's all about when we're on here. It does lead to that Sheffield United. They should have done that. I think they should have stayed with too soon. And
but there's a lot of, I can't say it, but I know the real story about what went on there. And Chris, how he was treated is just unbelievable. But that's for another thing what will come out probably in a few years' time.
Yeah.
But Burnley stayed with Sean. They developed the training ground. They did all that, and really, for what he's done. And when I say that group of players, listen, they're good players because they're playing in Premier League. But if you looked at them on a piece of paper and went, would you sign any of them for our club to make them better, or would you do that? Same with Sheffield United. When they were there, you go, nah, not really.
There's not many of them that you would, is there?
But then when Burnley played to the potential, you go, would you like to play against any of them? And you go, no.
No, yeah, exactly.
They never give in. They don't, you look
does
at
lead
it
back
Brentford
to that.
the other week. And like you look at that match and think, for Brentford, where they play, they're going to. I think I'm at Preston that day. I'd gone to the 3-0 up half time, missed a penalty, Burnley. Unbelievable. And then go to Chelsea and get a 1-1 draw. Fantastic.
It does go back to that dingy turf more at that when there's times where we play under Sean Dyche and you think you could still be sat in the long side or in the be-all end watching them come out of that dingy tunnel. Yeah, in the middle of the cricket field stand, getting pelters. That team could still be that team because of the work ethic that he's got them doing.
But you see, that's the thing. There's managers who are made for clubs who get not just a football club, they get the town. Yeah. And Sean's come, and what's Burnley? I think I said it earlier on. It's a working class, hard place, and if you try and play fancy down, nice, which a few managers have tried to do, fans are like, "What? Hang on a minute, no, you earn your money by working hard," and that's what they do. That's what they do. Yeah. And Sean personifies that on how he is, with voice, with how he is as a person, how he was as a player, and as a Burnley manager. Unfortunately, when I say unfortunately, I think whoever takes over, which somebody will do in future, can't go changing it too much, or else.
The big shoes to fill now, aren't they?
Did you play against him?
Yeah.
What were you like as a player?
He was like a John Bender.
Solid.
Like that type. Hard as nails, whatever. Not the best in the world, if you know what I mean. He weren't cool, sure, let's get it down and but he did a job, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And that's how he manages the players. Do your job. You do your job. You do your job. We'll gel together and we'll all have a job together.
That's it.
Sorry, you jumped in there in front of you. What were you just going to say? Sorry.
No. I was about ready to get going and move on to Jamie's, carry back on with Jamie's career. So we had a little stint at Carlisle United, if I'm right in saying in there.
With the chairman. What did they call him? Who tried to buy Man United?
The one who
juggled the ball. Michael Knighton. Yeah. So he was strange. I went up there for a month. I enjoyed it actually. It was good. And then he said to me, when you get released off Burnley end of season, which obviously I knew I was going to do, here's a written thing. We'll sign you. So I said, oh, brilliant, great stuff. Got released off Burnley. When we said, this thing, can I come and sign? He went, oh no, that don't mean anything.
Wonderful.
Great stuff. Thank you, Michael.
Nice one. Cheers. Thanks for that, pal.
But you ended up at Scarborough. How did that? I can see you shaking your head there.
When you make mistakes in your life, that was the one, because at the time I was going through a divorce, which weren't the best thing in the world to travel to Scarborough every day, and I'd got 2 young kids, but I was going to sign for Shrewsbury. Jake King was manager, and he'd been after me for quite a bit of time, and I fancied Shrewsbury. He played nice football, blah blah blah. And as I was travelling down there, Mick Wadsworth rung me up from Scarborough and said, I want you to come and sign for us as player coach. And as soon as he said player coach, I went, right, I'll come up. 2 years, brilliant. I'll be coaching every day. I went up. I never coached a day, never did anything. And Mick, I know Mick really well, and he personifies what a Yorkshireman's about. Miserable, grumpy, like that all the time. And that's what he were. He would just, he sucked the life out of me, to be fair.
Did he?
he sucked the life out. I finished end of that. We went down. If you remember, the goalkeeper scored for Carlisle, Jimmy Glass, who'd been on loan at Burnley when I was there. Jimmy came on loan, played in reserves. And it's a funny story because I used to ferry him about, Jimmy, and he once said, he was right, typical Cockney. I should be a centre forward. He said, I'm better out, me. I'm a great player out. And I went, you are? And anyhow, a few years down the line, he sent me out of the league, hadn't he? Because he scored at last kick of the game. and that was it for me then. Scarborough owed me a lot of money. When I say a lot of money, they owed me $5,000, and they said they'd pay me. I was going through a divorce. They said they'd pay me monthly, and after one payment, they stopped paying me. And I went through a really bad time. And I packed in at 33. I thought I've had enough. I can't be doing it. I'd fallen out of love for football, which I loved training. I loved the dressing room. I loved playing on a Saturday. And then after Scarborough, I didn't enjoy training. I just didn't, and not like it were hard. I just couldn't get my head around it. And I had loads and loads of non-league clubs offering me good money to come and play non-league. And no disrespect to non-league, but I never classed myself for going to non-league. And I thought if I go to non-league, because it weren't really full time then. It were like twice a week, and I thought I am going to play at 70, 80%. And I'm going to take money, and I'm not going to be giving them what I should be. And I said, no, I can't do that. I need to do something else.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I came out of football, and Dean Ramsdale, my mate, was working at Burnley. Rammers on the community. And he said, come and work for me on soccer schools. And I said, right. And he gave me $10,000 a year. And I'd just come out of football. I'm going through it. And I just had to take that. Yeah. So $10,000 a year just to get going and do something. But I just knew, and then worked at Bolton in their academy, and then I finished up working in Burnley's a little bit with Vince. But I'd just fallen out of love with playing and training, which was sad really, because my knees, I'd had 8 operations on my knees, but I were all right. I could get through. And looking back on it, if I'd been at right place at right time, I'd probably got another 3 or 4 years playing. Yeah. But I just thought, my head's gone here. I'm not going to give 100% to somebody. And if I didn't give 100%, I was shocking. I knew that. Yeah. I knew I had to be in it all or not in it at all.
Obviously, after football, and you know, I'm going to touch back on that actually. I've got a lot of respect for that. If you've got to be in it or not at all, and it's sort of what happened with my military career. I got a knee injury, had an operation on it, and I couldn't be in it 100%. It just wouldn't. My body just wouldn't allow me to do it. So yeah, I understand that. Yeah. I took it mentally. I came back from Afghanistan and things like that, and I had a lot of with my knee injury after that. All played heck and mental health and things like that, and so. You've obviously come out of football and had a struggle there, and obviously you offered a chance to go and work with Rammers. How did you progress from there then? Because you've obviously had to drag yourself, back in. And
I think I worked with Rammers for just a year, might be just under a year. So it was brilliant. It was absolutely like my first morning. I were at Padiham. I don't know if it's still there. The primary school outside Gawthorpe there, and I were in school playground with 5-year-olds putting stones down and bean bags and all like that after being a footballer. But I tell you what, it were brilliant. It were fantastic going around all schools and like that. But I knew I had to get back in football, and a chance came up at Halifax when they were actually a league club. Gary Worthington was leaving Centre Excellence director to go. I think he was going to Leeds. And he said, do you fancy it? So I took it. And oh my gosh, it was just unbelievable. I was like market pitches, putting goals up, fetching sandwiches, doing that, making sure training were all right. Everything was just like, wow. I did it for about 3 or 4 months, and it was just like, whoa, this is not. no, this isn't really a header like a thing. And
Yeah.
Halifax played Rochdale, first team. I think it might have been Bank Holiday Monday, something like that. And Steve Parkin was Rochdale's manager. And he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm doing this." He went, "I'm going to be my youth team manager at Rochdale." And I knew Parky and I went, "I'd love to." And he went, "Right, I'll sort it. You can come and be a youth team." And then I went to Rochdale as youth team manager, which was the most, like, talk about thinking on your feet and having to do stuff. Is it Castlefield Park in Rochdale? They had no training ground. First team got any bit of ground they could, and we used to train on a hill in the park, like that. It was no goals, just posts, just not you stuck in. You had to get round with cones, get up dog dirt off, and set up a thing for youth team, and that's how it was. And it was like, wow, this is unbelievable, but it were brilliant. The lads, we used to play our games at Kirkham Prison because the prison guard, a lad called Jeff Waring, was a big mate of ours and everything, and he let us use the ground. So we used to go Saturday mornings and have to play at Kirkham Prison.
Wow.
And honestly, yeah, play at Kirkham Prison. So we travel from Rochdale, go and play up there, all teams. It was just when I look back on it now, and then I did that for a bit, and then I got the chance. I finished working with first team. Paul Simpson came in as player manager, and we did that for a year, which was all right. It was good. Simo was a player still, and I didn't want to be them, but I finished up doing a lot of stuff I didn't want to be doing, and in end we finished after a year, and I once again came out of football, and I went and worked for Mitre. I looked after all the teams in the country, because obviously the league then was sponsored by Mitre, and also England. I used to have to deliver the training balls for England, go down to the camps. And I did that for about 18 months. And then Simo got the Preston job and invited me to go to Preston as youth team manager. Well, he wanted me to go to run it. And I said, no, I just want to coach. And I went to Preston and had 6 fantastic years coaching youth team there. That was a brilliant time, absolute brilliant time. I loved it there. And we got some players through, some players who are still playing now in league. And like you guys, I can look at you guys now. They're exactly the same. They've got kids, they've got families, and oh my God, I remember signing you at 16. I'm thinking I'm only 40. I'm 55, like, and it's like, oh gosh, where's it gone? But that was just a brilliant time, and it's just been like sometimes ups and downs. I've always wanted to be in football. Even though sometimes now my wife Vicky, she's like, no, you're not going back into it, and that's what happened with Everton, because I finished at Preston, not the best finish ever with Graham Wesley and Peter Ridsdale, but that were it. And then I went back home. I went back to Sheffield United. I got the youth team job straight away, and it's the worst thing other than Scarborough I've ever done in my life. As soon as I walked back into training ground at Sheffield United, I thought, this is not 1990. This is toxic.
Yeah.
And within 6 months I'd left. I thought, once again, I used to travel in every morning from Rottenstall to Sheffield and back over Snake Pass. And I just thought, nah, I'm not enjoying this. I love the coaching, but I hated the bit off it. It was like being in the school playground in our offices. It were just childish. And I hated it. And, some people there, wow. And I just thought, I need to get out of this. And I got out. That was 2013. And it was once again back to, what am I going to do? And I finished up working for Accrington and Rossendale College. Mark Fell got me in there, which was brilliant. Another great experience out of professional football, but we were a group of lads who were at college who, like you were saying, Mark, who were not professional or in any way, and I couldn't get my head around that, and they couldn't get their head around me at first, but in the end they did, and it was brilliant. I had a fantastic time with them. They were great lads. I did that, and then I got a job with the FA part-time scouting, doing seniors. I wrote an article in Bury Times, and then I did media work. Radio Lancashire, Andy Bays got me involved with them doing commentary, and I absolutely loved it. I've got a face for radio.
Yeah.
I've got a face for radio.
Face for radio.
It was brilliant. And I just went all over the country doing all teams. I had it wasn't like, oh, he's played for Burnley, he'll do Burnley. I did Preston, because of the Preston, Burnley, Blackpool, and I had no favour for him. It was brilliant, because actually, as much as I'd worked there, played for them, I supported Sheffield United.
Yeah,
so
Sheffield United.
Everything else I saw, and I just absolutely, I love that. I love doing that. And they gave me my own show, which was just amazing. They said to me, we'd like you to present. And I went, what football? They went, no, we'd like you to interview people for a thing called Jamie's Marvelous People.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
And it was the best. I interviewed Jim Bowen. I interviewed one at Military Police, actually, Pete Briggs, who's a Burnley fan. Yeah. I did Becky Barr, who's now a firewoman, but she was like presenter on Northwest. I did Steve Norman, who's a saxophone player for Spandau Ballet. There's loads. Suzanne Bowden, who's a journalist. I did loads. I did 30 odd shows, and it was just. I talk about out of my comfort zone, just having to sit and watch him. But I started it. But I had no script. I just used to go, "What's the most marvelous thing you've ever done in your life?" And some of the stuff was just unbelievable.
Yeah,
unbelievable. Like, and then that got to end of that, and I was working for the FA 2016. And I got a phone call saying Roy Hodgson wants you to be one of his main scouts for Euros. And I went, what?
Wow.
And he went, he wants to come and meet you. He wants you to come down to Wembley and meet him. So I went, me? He went, yeah, he's picked you out. He wants you. He's picked 3 of them who he knows, but he wants you to come down. So I got trained down to Wembley, and it was like up Wembley way. Now, I don't know if you know, when I played football, I used to be sick with nerves every game. Yeah. And walking down Wembley way, feeling as if I just wanted to be sick every time I stopped. Honestly, I've got nerves. I'm meeting England manager, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do here? He don't know me. He don't know. So I got to Wembley, checked in, right upstairs, see Mr. Hodgson. And I've got to the floor where his offices were, like at Wembley. And I can hear all these voices, because the 3 guys who were with him, Alan Cork, Terry Burton, and Barry Simmons, were the 3 we knew from football. They're in a room having a chat. I'm thinking, oh, God. Luckily, I knew Ray Lewington, who was his assistant.
Yeah.
Ray's come down and gone, oh, Jamie, how are you? I'm thinking, yeah, great. Oh, brilliant, great stuff like that. And he said, oh, we're in here. And they took us in this room, and it was the boardroom at Wembley. I swear to you, it was massive. And he got this massive mahogany table with 3 lines in it. I'm thinking, Roy Hodgson came in and he went, no, we're not having it in here. He says, this is too formal. Down to my office. And his office, you could hardly swing a cat. Honestly. Oh. I'm like, this is England manager. But I tell you what, my team was Wales, so I had to do a big dossier on Wales. Not all the players, because everybody knew Gareth Bale were quick and blah, blah, blah. But I had to do, like, what do they do? You know, if they're losing a game, if they're playing against a team who are sitting back, or blah, blah, blah. And I followed them all over. I went to Ukraine, Sweden, did match reports, back 12 massive match reports before we're going. And Roy Hodgson, and then I went out to Euros. So I had 3 weeks in France, which was just unbelievable. But the 2 days before they played Wales, they flew me into Chantilly, where they were based, and I had to go and present in front of all coaches, like the Welsh dossier, how to beat them.
Yeah.
Wow. Talk about nervous then. But Roy Hodgson, can I just say, is one of the best people I ever met in football. He was just the nicest man. He gets a lot of bad press, and I felt so sorry for him. I know what went on behind the scenes at that Euros, and Roy went to blame, by the way. And he made me feel, I were only doing scouting, he made me feel as if I were his captain, that I were his captain. And he was just, what a man, yeah.
Brilliant.
And did that then led on to Everton, did it?
Yeah, well, I came home after surviving a suicide bomb a false bomb. I were in the Paris stadium when the bomb went off that night.
Oh, Christ.
You know, in Paris when Germany played France. I was there that night, scouting that night. So I survived that, came home, and on the Monday, Dave Unsworth rang me and said, right, I want you to come to Everton. I want you to be under 23, head of under 23 scouting. And I said, right, no problem. I'll have a word with my wife. So I said to Vic, Everton want me, Shwin, you're not doing that. You're not going back into football. I thought, all right, here it goes. And then I rung a few people and said, listen, this job's come. What do you think? Oh, you've got to take that. You've got to take it. And eventually I persuaded her. And she said, yeah, do it. So what are we now, 5.5 years down the line? I'm still hanging in there. Miss Soyland's letting me hang in there and doing first team scouting now. I've moved on, and I love it. I love every minute of it, to be honest.
Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy, isn't it? Like, younger. I mean, I don't know about you, mate, but just listening to you and just, I know I speak for both of us when I say this. When you were talking about your college days and stuff, when you came into my school with me and Younger, and all the other lads, you know, AD, Stu, Mitchell, Ben, all the other boys, you know, all the lads. For me personally, I'm not just saying this. Everything I am, there's two people who I owe everything to in my, you know, amateur footballing. It's Ken Inkle, and yourself. The reason why I say you is because you instilled something in me that nobody could do at the time, where you gave me that confidence to play in my own game and not try and be some flash in the pan who I'm not. Concentrate on what you do best, and that's put ball in back in net. And you said, you used to remember when you say it's an easy game is football if you just do what you're told. And I'm not just saying that, Jamie. You know, all my football and stuff. I owe that back
to. That's a lovely thing to say. That's great. Thank you.
And you know,
there's still things that I say now that you said to us.
Yeah,
like
100%.
People would go for a header and you wouldn't header it, and you'd be like, "I've got some shampoo in changing room."
Yeah,
like,
I've got some shampoo. Yeah,
I've got shampoo in changing room. And,
he used to say that to me all the time.
And I still use that now. Like, and it's it is, you know. You just installed.
You know something. It makes me feel very proud, actually, that you guys have said that, because obviously I move on, don't I? I move on. You lot become still friends, and I move on to different things, and I don't know what I leave a room and I leave a club or I leave whatever and go on, and for you to say that is a lovely thing to say, and honestly, it makes me feel. It does. It makes me feel very proud for you to say that. Thank you.
You've installed a lot of stuff and a lot of good things in us, and I would probably say in a lot of the lads that were there, and a lot of the people that you coached along the way. So yeah, thanks very much for that.
One of the best times is when you come in changing room and flogged us all up townly when we were. I think we were playing the Myerscough A team, apparently, who had it all at Preston. They had all the equipment, everything like that, and we were up town there. And just remember, we got up there, we'd walked up. Obviously, we weren't allowed to be late, or we'd be doing laps. Got up there, and I just remember we were all there, we were all getting ready, and you just kicked door down, and you're jumping about, and you showed us what it were to have that passion of going into a game where you sort of the underdogs. And you got us up for that game, and I remember it. We won 3-2. Danny Astin scored from edge of box with his right foot, and it was a sense of we've done it. We'd done something that you gave us, and I loved every single minute of it. When you left, we're not the same. We had some very good coaches when you went. Vince Overson, Trigg, lads like Jerry Harrison. Andy Farrell, we were lucky to be blessed with that. However, when you went, it just didn't feel the same. And I don't know if Youngie feels the same. It just weren't the same, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I think yeah, you did install a lot in us. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I think that brings us close to the evening, really. So yeah, I really want to say thank you for coming on. I think Mark will agree in that, and thank you for taking the time out. You're obviously busy, so yeah, thank you. Yeah,
no, I've enjoyed
really.
it. It's been my pleasure, and like like I say, I'm glad that people have. I mean, people get pleasure listening to stories and whatever, and obviously, I'd never get what you guys have said is means a lot to me, and it means a lot for coming on, speaking for whatever, for what you've said. You know what I mean? That's
yeah.
No, it is. It's a real nice thing, and I've really enjoyed it. It's great to talk about, you said the old times and stuff like that, but to me, it actually seems 10 minutes ago.
Yeah,
of course.
Like last year, and it's bloody years ago now, isn't it? But
yeah, it is, yeah.
it always the good times, the good times when you're enjoying yourself, always only seem like a bit ago, don't they? And
that's it.
I think as we go back and we're talking about John Pender at the start, I think one thing I've always been, you have to enjoy yourself all the time.
Yeah.
Or enjoy, because I know it's a bit
You
like
just never know.
but you just never know. No,
That's it.
I lost my brother 5 years ago, my eldest brother, and I lost my mum this year. And you just think you've got to enjoy every day. And unfortunately, last couple of years have been a bit like that. But I think I've tried to live a life, certainly since my brother passed away, that you enjoy every single day. Because as another one of my sayings, player who I used to play with, said, life's not a rehearsal, and it's not. You enjoy it.
Exactly.
I'm going to nick that. I'm pinching that. Definitely pinching that.
Yeah,
but no, I think we've only got a minute and 40 left. But from us, Jamie, both of us, like the youngie said, thanks very much for coming on. You've been amazing. Thanks for being so open and honest what you've discussed. If you know of any of your footballing friends that might want to come on, shout out about us. We're always on the lookout for ex-pros coming on and giving their stories. That would be great. Right. But thank you for taking the time to come out on the We Know Nothing show. Much appreciated. Hope you enjoy the show, guys. Like I said, get involved. We've got Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Youngie, see us out as always, son.
That's it. No, again, Jamie, thank you very much for your time. And that's
no problem. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Mark. Cheers.
Take care. See you later. Bye, lads.
Can't find me to end it now.